So I'm standing with Scott at Backyard Bird Shop. And Scott, it's delightful to be here because there's some things we need to think about for our feathered friends going into the colder and winter season here. So let's start right here with food. What are we standing in front of?
We're standing in front of suet, which is very attractive to insect-eating birds like chickadees and nuthatches. Bush tits are one of my favorite insect-eating birds. So they convert the fat that's in suet quickly into energy, and that's the appeal of it.
And see, now I have to admit, I might have been aware, but I didn't know that there was only specifically insect-eating birds. I thought they would probably eat anything, but there are ones that really will just eat the insects with it.
Well, William, birds are opportunists, so in extreme weather they could switch back and forth. But typically they have a preference just like you and I do. And there are insect-eating birds like our common bush tit, which just almost exclusively feeds on insects and fat, of course, as a substitute for those insects.
And then if you put in, because I've had suet that only had seeds in it, so you can put that out for the seed-only birds then? That would help them as well?
Yeah, well, a cake of suet that is pure fat or fat with insects that are integrated in it is ideal because those birds that are coming to that are really insect-eating birds. Some manufacturers, to make the suet more affordable, will put seeds in there, but seeds are really a filler in suet.
And then, do you have to worry about this stuff getting wet? I mean, because I see a lot of them are covered. So is that a problem?
Yeah, no, the covering is more just to make the feeder attractive to us. But the birds are really after the fat, and the quality fat, fresh fat, which is involved in the suet.
And I have to say, last year we had some out there, and let's walk over this way because we're going to talk about heaters, but I remember seeing the suet was just covered with all kinds of amazing birds. I mean, they were just all over it. It was really cool. And then you still have the fresh seed, though, stuff for other birds to fill those in.
Yeah, my favorite seed is a sunflower seed. It's the easiest seed for them to digest, and it has a really high fat content. So I feed the seed without shells on it just because it's easier for me. But birds also like just as well sunflower seed with the shell on it. They just have to take the shell off. It's a little bit cheaper to buy it this way, of course. But you are paying for the shell.
And I would think if you have a feeder that's close to a patio or an area that you walk a lot, it might be smarter to get the other ones too, so you don't have to clean them.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of birds, and they like water, and you're a big proponent of fresh water. The cleaner it is, the more the birds will be there a lot. But yet in winter, if we have a freeze, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of having any water. So tell us about these heating things.
We have kind of the sauna effect for a bird bath. Actually, this is just a low watt heater that keeps the water from freezing in our winter weather. So you use a plug to plug it in, and it runs all the time.
And it's not literally it's not going to be a sauna type water. It just keeps it above the freezing level.
About 38 degrees.
Nice. Okay. And you have all kinds.
Well, some people already have their bird baths, and so this way you can add a heater to it. I have one of these bird baths because it's a ground bath. It has a lot of friction. The birds really like this. They love bathing on the ground, and it also plugs in as well. So it's integrated. The heater is integrated. Yeah.
That's very clever. And then you just have to make sure that you, again, keep it clean and fill it up.
Right.
Now, we've talked about food. We've talked about making water available even in really cold and freezing weather. So let's take a walk over here, and we're going to talk about some specific birds.
Okay.
So now, Scott, we are at what I call the Cathedral of Hummingbird Feeders. you have a lot of those because we want to specifically talk about hummingbirds. There's been a lot of changes with them, hasn't there, over the last couple of decades?
Yeah, well, for example, the Anna's hummingbird is here year-round now.
Nice.
And so we can see them feeding at our feeders all through the winter.
And to facilitate that, on those few times that we actually get that drop in temperature where their source of food might freeze, tell me about some of these. These are some clever ideas that have come up with now to keep that from happening.
Well, our local vendors realized several years ago that we do get freezing weather here occasionally in Portland. And when you do, of course, that's when the hummingbirds really are most happy to see a feeder in the backyard. So we have feeders that use a little light bulb underneath to keep them from freezing at night. And then this woman in Tacoma came out with a nifty way she calls it the Hummer Cozy. She stitched together a little pocket, and you insert a hand warmer.
Oh, that's funny.
And it keeps the nectar from freezing for 8 hours. So you go to bed at night and you put one in.
Oh, that's very, and they can go on the bottom, they wrap around this one. That's a very clever idea.
Different type feeders. And the most important thing, though, about a hummingbird feeder, as with all feeders, is freshness. So
Yeah.
you want to change the nectar regularly, every 4 to 5 days.
And there's a lot, we are lucky to have a lot of different types of birds in our area, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Oregon is one of the largest, one of the largest number of birds in the U.S.
And proof of that is what you're holding in your hand.
Well, this is a handy dandy chart that I just really like. We developed it about 10 years ago, and it just simplifies bird identification. It has about 30 birds, the most common birds we see in the Portland area, on it, and just saves going through a field guide, flipping
Yeah.
through, trying to find the bird that you're looking for.
And if you can't find it on here, then you can choose to go to the field guide and see
Exactly.
what is in there.
Or call us.
Yeah, exactly. That is true indeed. So because of what we put in hummingbird feeders, you guys have a great recipe to making that at home, don't you, on your website?
We do. It is 4 parts water, 1 part sugar, white table sugar, but it's also on our website, and calling our stores, we'll give it to you as well.
You know, in fact, speaking of their website, it's a great website for all kinds of information on birding and that passion for so many people that have that. So you can go to gardentime.tv, we'll click you over to their website, or you can visit any of their great locations. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks,
Always a
William.
pleasure.